Have you ever reached for your phone to check a single notification, only to look up 45 minutes later, wondering where the time went? It's a universal experience now, almost like a collective trance. We're living in an era where modern life feels inherently addictive, and it's not just a lack of willpower. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on the dopamine trap to understand why our brains seem to be at war with the world we've built. Joining the conversation is a specialist who spends a lot of time looking at the intersection of biology and modern behavior. It feels like we're part of a massive, unconsented experiment, doesn't it?
That is exactly how I describe it. We've essentially built a digital and social infrastructure that moves faster than our biological evolution. Our brains are operating on software that's thousands of years old, designed for a world of scarcity, but we're living in a world of infinite, high-speed abundance. When people feel burnt out or addicted to their screens, they often blame their character, but the reality is that their neurobiology is being systematically hijacked by some of the most sophisticated algorithms and engineering in human history.
I want to dig into that hijacking because the word dopamine is thrown around so much lately. You see it in headlines about dopamine detoxing or dopamine fasting. But I think there's a massive misconception that dopamine is just the pleasure chemical. Is it actually about feeling good, or is it something more complex?
It's much more about the chase than the prize. Biologically, dopamine is the molecule of more. It's responsible for motivation, anticipation, and reward seeking. In the wild, if you found a berry bush, dopamine was the signal that said, "This is important, remember this location, and come back tomorrow." It's a survival mechanism. The problem today is that we've decoupled that reward from any actual survival benefit. Now, that same chemical surge is triggered by a like on a photo, a flashing red notification, or the infinite scroll of a video feed. We are being rewarded for hunting for information that we don't even need.
So it's like our internal compass is being spun around by magnets. If dopamine is about anticipation, does that explain why the scroll is so hard to stop? It's not necessarily that the content is great, but that the next thing might be?
Precisely. It's what psychologists call variable ratio reinforcement. It's the same logic that makes slot machines the most addictive games in a casino. If every scroll gave you something boring, you'd stop. If every scroll gave you something amazing, you'd eventually get bored. But because it's unpredictable, maybe a funny meme, then a depressing news story, then a beautiful sunset, your brain stays locked in a state of maybe the next one is the jackpot. This constant spiking of dopamine eventually leads to desensitization. Your baseline shifts.
And that's where the trap really closes, right? Because once your baseline shifts, normal life, the stuff that actually matters, like reading a book or having a quiet dinner, starts to feel painfully dull.
Exactly. When you overstimulate the system, the brain tries to protect itself by downregulating its receptors. It's like trying to listen to a whisper in a room where a rock concert is playing. You just can't hear it. This is why people feel restless or even anxious when they aren't stimulated. We've lost the ability to be bored, and boredom is actually the birthplace of creativity and deep reflection. If we can't tolerate a quiet elevator ride without a screen, we've effectively lost control of our own attention.
It's not just the digital world, though. I look at the way food is engineered now, that bliss point of salt, sugar, and fat. It feels like the same dopamine-driven architecture is being applied to our diets. Is there a direct link between this neurological exhaustion and our physical metabolism?
There's a profound link. When we're constantly overstimulated, our nervous system stays in a state of high alert, which spikes cortisol. Chronic high cortisol is a disaster for metabolism. It messes with your insulin sensitivity, it disrupts your sleep, and it actually changes your appetite hormones to make you crave more high dopamine foods. So, you're stressed from the news, you scroll to escape the stress, the scroll spikes your dopamine but leaves you feeling empty, and then your brain screams for a quick hit of energy, usually in the form of processed sugar. It's a closed loop of biological depletion.
It sounds incredibly exhausting. And yet, we see people trying to fight back with these dopamine detoxes. They'll go into the woods for a week or delete every app on their phone. Does that actually reset the hardware, or is it just a temporary band-aid?
The term detox is a bit of a misnomer because you can't actually empty your brain of dopamine, you'd be catatonic without it. But the intent behind it is sound. It's about reducing the noise so you can hear the whispers again. However, a 1-week fast, followed by returning to the exact same habits, won't do much long term. The real work is in cognitive hygiene, creating permanent boundaries. It's about realizing that your attention is the most valuable resource you own, and right now, there's a multi-trillion-dollar industry dedicated to stealing it.
That's a heavy thought, that our attention is a resource being mined. If we look at the social aspect, it's not just about the hit of a notification. It's the comparison. We're now comparing our behind-the-scenes footage with everyone else's highlight reel. How does that constant social evaluation affect our dopamine levels and general sense of worth?
It creates a state of perpetual inadequacy. Evolutionarily, we are wired to care about our status within a small tribe of maybe 150 people. Now, we are subconsciously competing with 8 billion people. When you see someone on a private jet while you're eating cereal in your pajamas, your brain registers a drop in social status, which lowers serotonin and triggers a stress response. We're seeking external validation from strangers to fix an internal feeling of loneliness, but digital likes are like salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get.
So if someone is listening to this and feeling that neurological exhaustion you mentioned, that sense of being busy but unproductive, stimulated but tired, where do they even begin to reclaim their biology?
It starts with awareness and then moves to friction. You have to make the bad habits harder and the good habits easier. If your phone is the first thing you touch in the morning, you've lost the day before it's even begun. You've surrendered your brain to everyone else's agenda. I often suggest analog mornings, no screens for the first hour. Let your own thoughts populate your head before the world's noise gets in. And we have to prioritize recovery. Real recovery isn't watching Netflix, it's physiological rest, sleep, sunlight, and movement. These things provide a slow, steady release of dopamine that builds resilience rather than eroding it.
It's interesting that the cure is essentially everything our ancestors did naturally. Sunlight, walking, talking to a friend in person. It's almost as if the most high-tech thing we can do for our health is to live a bit more low-tech.
That's a perfect way to put it. We're seeing a rise in wearable tech that tracks things like heart rate variability, HRV, and sleep stages, and I think that's valuable because it gives people a mirror. It shows them, look, that hour of scrolling before bed actually ruined your deep sleep. When you see the data, it's harder to lie to yourself. It turns the laziness narrative into a biology narrative. You're not lazy, you're overstimulated and under-recovered.
I think that shift in perspective is so vital. It moves us away from shame and toward a strategy. If we look toward the future, do you think we'll reach a breaking point? Will we eventually develop a kind of digital literacy where we treat these platforms with the same caution we treat tobacco or alcohol?
I believe we're at the beginning of that shift right now. We're starting to see the attention economy for what it is. The people who will thrive in the next few decades are those who can protect their focus. Deep work, sustained attention, and the ability to be present are becoming rare, high-value skills. We have to treat our minds like a garden. If you let everyone dump their trash in your garden, nothing beautiful will grow. You have to be the gatekeeper.
It's a powerful call to action. It's not just about being more productive. It's about reclaiming the quality of our lives. If we're constantly living in the dopamine trap, we're never actually here. We're always in the next moment, the next click, the next hit.
Exactly. The irony of the dopamine trap is that it promises satisfaction in the next moment, but it robs you of the only moment where satisfaction actually exists, which is right now. We have to remember that our brains weren't built for this level of intensity. It's okay to opt out. It's okay to be unplugged. In fact, in an age of total connectivity, the ability to disconnect might be the ultimate superpower.
That's a perfect place to leave it. A reminder that our biology is a gift, but it's a fragile one in the face of modern technology. We need to be intentional about the environments we put our brains in. Thank you for walking us through the science of this. It's definitely given me a lot to think about the next time I feel that itch to reach for my phone.
It's been a pleasure. If there's one takeaway, it's just to give your brain a break. It's doing a lot of work to keep up with a world it wasn't designed for. A little silence goes a long way.
To everyone listening, take a moment today to find that silence. Whether it's a walk without headphones or just sitting with your coffee without a screen, give your dopamine receptors a rest. Your focus, your sleep, and your long-term health will thank you for it. We'll be back next time to dive deeper into how we can better align our modern lives with our ancient biology. Until then, protect your attention and stay curious.